All right, Addison, it's more than halfway through spring. It seems like it's kind of flown by. I think we talked with you early on, just kind of generally speaking, how's the defense looking more than halfway through it?
First off, it has flown by, man. It's not enough time in a day. But the guys, first off, the approach, the attitude, the mentality has been phenomenal, whether that's in the meeting room or on the field. So all that stuff has been there. Obviously, there's still things that we're working on cleaning up schematically, making sure guys are doing the right things with the install getting as extensive as it was. Last time I talked to you guys, I think we were on like day 3 or 4, but we only had 2 installs. But at this point, we have pretty much the entire defense in, well, I say entire, probably 75% of it in. And so just getting everybody honed in on the different calls, on the different signals and everything. But I think the progress is going well thus far.
What was the focus of practice today? What did you guys work on? What do you want to see out of your side on Thursday during the second scrimmage?
So today was a situation today working on third down and red zone, which are 2 key components of playing defense and offense. So my biggest thing to those guys is when you normally end up in those positions, you're normally tired, they've had a drive, or it's late in the game and whatnot, and those are the times where you really have to pay attention to detail and really focus in. And so the biggest thing today was really making sure guys focused in those critical moments. Because obviously you got to focus every play, but those are most situations that can win and lose your ball games. So the focus was really the main component today. And then as for the scrimmage on Thursday, just to continue continuity and consistency. That's one of the things that we've been preaching, because I told the guys the other day, I've seen you do this right. I've seen you do it right 10 times, but then you do it wrong twice. Where's that disconnect? So just being consistent in everything we're doing, and a lot of times it boils back down to what I just talked about, being the focus. So that'll be the biggest thing on Thursday, is just the consistency in everything that we're doing.
Earlier in the spring, you talked about how much football and how much of the playbook and things they absorb between Gyro Wilson and the Jordan Mask. Having maybe 2 weeks now to kind of see things out, how they fit in on field, and what sort of things stand out to you about how they can play in your defense.
The biggest thing, both of those guys are athletic. Obviously, Jar is a bigger guy, so he's a guy that can come down, he can fit the box, he can cover tight ends, but he actually ran pretty fast in the 42, so not afraid to put him on receivers. The Jordan is more of your athletic safety that can go down and play nickel. But the biggest thing with those two now, they know exactly what to do, which they're still learning some, but at the same time, I need both of those guys to be more vocal as we go with helping some of the younger guys out when we're mixing and matching the groups out there. So that's what I want to see from the Jordan for sure as we move forward in spring ball, just being more vocal.
Halfway through, what would you say are the biggest strides that the defense has made?
The biggest strides is coming together as a group as a whole, to be honest with you. Like I said, we had 6 new guys in the secondary. We had 1 linebacker with a lot of game experience. So the guys just coming together and just that team building, starting to find guys that are speaking up and kind of speaking the same language that the coaches are speaking, and not so much the coach having to get on the guys all the time about the little things. So just coming together as a group is the biggest thing that I've seen this spring.
Coach, I know a big focus for you is on the back 4, but can you talk a little bit about the front 7, kind of how those guys are developing? I know you have some leadership there, also some new guys that you're kind of depending on. How's the development of the front 7 coming along?
A lot of leadership, and those guys actually spend a lot of time together. Some that we've done this year that we had not done in the past is a lot of the run fits, because that's when those guys really got to be on the same page, and we spend 15, 20 minutes pre-practice every single day going over run fits and getting those guys to understand exactly where guys are going to be at. And there's several guys in that group that have impressed and improved since we've been here. Walter Yates being one of them that has really done a good job. Obviously, you got John Walker up front. Matthew Alexander has done a good job. Malachi Lawrence has done a good job. So there's several guys I can really go down the list. Cam Moore is another one that has done a good job. So there's several guys up there that are taking that next step, you know. So really excited about that.
You just mentioned Walter Yates and Cam Moore. I was about to ask about linebacker. Obviously, Jason Johnson, everyone knows what he can do, but how's that position been looking, and how comfortable are you in the depth there?
We got guys there that are doing a really good job, and the biggest thing is the competition, and that's something that us as a staff wants to breed. And whether that's recruiting, whether that's signing transfers, just bringing more competition in the room, because the more competition you have at each position, then obviously, hey, you got to come to practice every day. Whether you're nicked up, banged up, whatever, you got to be mentally locked in and ready to go. Or hey, you hold on, this next guy, we're gonna let him get these reps. So that's the type of mentality that we have. So those guys are doing a great job battling.
What's the cornerback competition looking like?
So you got CT and you got VJ that somewhat has the upper hand because they've been here, but Fred Davis, he's flashed, he's done a good job. Jamar Morris has played some corner these last few practices, so see what he's going to do out there as well. But that guys as a group has been, they've done a good job. And then you also have Kari Henderson, who was able to play some in the bowl game, battled some injuries last year, but I do think he has the opportunity to be a really, really good player for us here.
Tremont obviously wasn't happy about the way the unit performed over the weekend. So what was the response that you saw out of the group, and what sort of emphasis did they have?
Again, with that group, I think we're building the continuity, which will in return build the resiliency and allow those guys to respond to adversity, you know, when things ain't necessarily going right. And so we had a real meeting about it. No meeting different than any other, because every meeting, whether it's practice or whether it's scrimmage, we're going to call out things when they're wrong, we're going to call out things when they're right, you know what I'm saying, praise the guys for it. So the guys did a great job taking coaching, and they got another opportunity to go out there this Thursday, and they responded well with practice on Saturday. They did a great job today, so we just got to put it all together, which goes back to the consistency and the focus on Thursday, and I think we'll be in a good spot coming out of the scrimmage on Thursday.
You said this camp has gone fast. How have you changed halfway through it?
How have I changed? The biggest thing is not focusing on just one group and having the entire defense and the entire coaching staff to focus on. But we have a great staff that I can lean on for different things, you know, and we got a great group of young men that we play for, so they make it a lot easier.
How do you spend your time during practice? Do you move from group to group? What do you do?
Early on when we're doing some of the individual stuff, or if we're doing a circuit, I kind of bounce around. But once we get to position specific stuff, I'm with the secondary, and like Gibbs had told y'all before, we coach the secondary together. So some days I have the corner, some days I have the nickel, some days I have the safety. So we kind of just mix and match, because those guys, at the end of the day, between myself and Gibbs, they still need to hear one voice, and me and Gibbs are on the same page.
Coach, can you talk about the mentality and attitude of your defense and kind of how that's coming along with the new guys, with the transfers and young guys? Is everybody kind of buying into what you're looking for your defensive side of the ball?
Again, we got great young men, and yes, everybody is buying in. And if you don't buy in, like Coach Malzahn said, you'll stick out like a sore thumb, because we have so many guys wanting to do the right thing and buying into the message that we're selling to the defense. And again, from a mentality standpoint, like I stood up here and said before, we're going to stop the run, so you got to be physical, you got to be nasty. We're going to affect the quarterback, so you got to be able to pin your ears back and come off the edge and make moves in the finesse game as well. And then obviously creating turnovers. That's being violent, punching the balls out, being physical, tackling guys. So mentality-wise, it's going to be physical and a fast, flying around defense.
I know you mentioned a couple of the safeties at the beginning, but what's the competition like there? Who's kind of in the mix, and what are you seeing from the safety spot? Because there's some wide open spots.
It's wide open, to be honest with you, and still to this day it's wide open. And the biggest thing right now is still wide open because we're rolling guys with different groups. Some days they're with the gold, some days they're with the black, some days they're with the white, and we're flip-flopping them field, boundary, left and right, which will give us, first off, give those guys an opportunity to learn more and give themselves a better opportunity to play. But at the same time, it's giving us, as the staff, the ability to evaluate those guys and see which seat they best fit in. But those guys are doing a good job.
So is it like Wilson and Mask and Damari, and who are some of the other names that are kind of?
You have William Wells that's been here, that's doing a good job. You talked about Mari, you talked about Jar, talked about Maj, Nakai. The last couple of practices, he's gotten some reps back there, and maybe before spring is over with, Braden Marshall may get some reps back there as well. And again, we want to be as interchangeable as possible in the secondary, but we're not going to jeopardize the integrity of the defense if a guy can't necessarily handle it. But those guys are really locked in, man, so we're giving them an opportunity to play and put the best 5 guys on the field.
Can you talk about how the young guys, like as you mentioned, Braden, Jason DeCona, how are those guys kind of getting integrated with the defense and possibly playing a role in the defense a little bit in the fall?
Braden's done a good job, man. He's really picked it up. Obviously, he's at the star position, playing behind the car right now, but he's going to be one before the spring is out. We're going to get him some reps with the goal because he is doing a good job. Obviously, there's a learning curve for him with playing all corner in high school, but he's doing a pretty good job picking it up, and he's a guy that loves ball. So he's always asking questions if he don't know, so you love that as a coach. And then talking about Jason was one, he started at safety, we moved him to corner, and then we just moved him back to safety, so he's going to get in that safety mix as well. We just finally found his seat for him, and we're going to sit him there and let him go play and have the opportunity to develop.
Quadric Bullard, I know he's not fully available and he was coming off an injury. At what point do you hope he's in the mix? Is he hopefully full go by summertime, or what's kind of his status?
From my understanding, at some point this summer, Quad will be back with us. So as we start the season, he should be ready to go. At what point will he be just full speed? I don't know that at this point, but I do know at some point this season, Quad will be back. But he's a smart kid. He's played multiple positions for us, and so he's back there learning. He's coaching the guys up, so he's very in tune, whether we're in meetings or in practice. So I feel good about where he's at from a mental standpoint. Just got to get him back healthy physically.
Appreciate it. Thank
Appreciate you
Coach.
guys.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right.